trust your feelings. They'll guide you. That's
the Blair Dunkley experience.
He has demonstrated the power of mind models.
Transformed over 1,000 mindsets.
Over 100 plus practical frameworks.
if you believe, it will happen. That's the biggest crock of lies I've ever heard. It's never about belief. No. What you need to do,
people are told to follow their passion. Is that the right advice?
don't blindly follow your passion. Do this instead.
Everyone thinks they just need more motivation. So from your work with mind models, what do they actually need instead?
Everyone thinks motivation is the engine, but it's really just the one thing that billionaires do every day to grow. This one thing is so simple. And that one thing is,
What if the real problem isn't who you are? It's the invisible code your mind has been running for years. Today's guest is Blair Dunkley. For over 3 decades, he's been working with everyone from people on the edge of suicide to top-level entrepreneurs and leaders, mapping how our thinking actually works and turning that into practical tools called mind models. Instead of hyping you up with motivation, Blair studies the tiny patterns in your language and behavior, then shows you how to change them so your brain makes better decisions under pressure in sales and leadership and in your personal life. In this episode, you'll hear why traditional mindset work collapses when life hits hard, how mind models reveal the glitches that keep you stuck, and the specific questions you can start using today to quietly rewire the way you think. Blair, welcome to Tea Talks.
hey, great to be here. Thank you so much, TJ.
Awesome, Blair. Blair, I opened by saying the problem might be mental software and not the person. When you look at most people today, what's the software glitch you see over and over again?
First of all, most people aren't broken at all. They're just running mental software that was written for a completely different life than the one that they're trying to live right now. One of the key things that people have is a little known thing called R-type behaviors. And R-type behaviors are response behaviors. So virtually everything that we do in our life, in our brain, that is basically a response to a stimuli. But life is changing so fast.
But with this rate of change, Blair, what does that mean for mankind?
We are going through an unprecedented rate of change. And a lot of people are becoming, well, I'd say unnerved by this. And they don't have a way to stay resilient with where they're at. They're stuck in a pattern.
What's the biggest lie the self-help world has been telling people about mindset that actually keeps them stuck?
If you believe enough, it will happen. And that's the biggest crock of lies I've ever heard. It's never about belief. It's never about feelings. If you make yourself feel good, it's never about feeling good. But mindset is just believe. Believe that what you have is sufficient. Well, excuse me, it's not. You have to be resilient. You have to apply skills and behaviors. And every mind model is behavior driven. It shows you literally how to think, how to break things down. The 3 E's being the ones that I use most commonly of effective versus ineffective. What's one thing I can do effectively right now? Well, jump on LinkedIn and get a new job. Is that externally verifiable? Because if it's just an opinion or a belief, that's just what you're holding inside of yourself. And I go, yeah, he did it. It's externally verifiable. He can show us exactly what he did and how he did it and the breakdown of those 50 possible new jobs. And then you can evaluate and start figuring out what works here about these things. He actually started doing the evaluation part. He broke it down and started recognizing that people were prepared to pay more. In fact, one of the ones he's applied to is offering a job for $300K a year. And it's actually less work than he's currently doing for half that. When you take a behavior, you generate the feelings. When somebody does a behavior to you, it generates feelings. They let him go. In fact, the entire division was gone in one sweep. Well, that's a behavior. And he felt badly for a few minutes. Then he chose a different behavior and he's feeling better, optimistic, and in charge of his life. That's the difference between mindset, which holds you stuck, and mind models that actually cause you to take action, to literally transform your life almost in an instant.
Are you saying positive affirmations are essentially useless and there's actually a better way to get what you want?
Positive affirmations, I have found some research that supports positive affirmations, but here's the kicker. The people who do positive affirmations must have the behaviors to attain whatever they're going after, because having positive affirmations without behavioral readiness in their brain does nothing. It doesn't change a thing. It does make you temporarily feel like you're talking yourself into feeling better. But where's the hard evidence? Where's the real change? It only really changes when you change a behavior. So it's a behavior first. See, the order is behavior first, then you get an emotion, then you try and basically communicate that you're doing what you're doing, and then you evaluate that whole process, and then you do more behavior that changes the feeling that you then communicate to yourself or others, even if you jot it down or say it out loud or tell a friend or whatever, and you evaluate that evaluation then prepares you to tweak the behavior. So this falls into a different mind model called failing fast, falling forward, the FFFF model. So you have 4 F's: fail, fast, falling forward. And when you evaluate that, what you just did, and repeat again, you will fall forward effectively.
So what parts of people's lives do these mind models work in?
Absolutely every part. Because what part of your life do you not use your brain? You use your brain in every aspect of your life.
I would like to believe a lot of people do, but you'd be surprised in some cases.
I've run into a lot of them as well. But if they are leading with their heart and their feelings, and they hope that everything will align, they'll be successful because they've got some behaviors. Their hope, their whatever is there, and hope is highly effective. In fact, they did a whole thing on the Blair Dunkley experience on hope and possibility. And when you take a look at hope constructively rather than passively, one of the things that you wind up getting is, what does that alignment, because hope can give us a direction, of where we go. Then if you use that hope to generate a behavior or a movement, a direction, a pathway to go forward on, now possibilities creep in, and everything's highly effective at that point.
So how about motivation? Everyone thinks they just need more motivation. So from your work with mind models, what do they actually need instead?
Everyone thinks motivation is the engine, but it's really just a loud passenger sitting on the top of a broken mind model. Inspiration is what people need, not motivation. And the way that you transition from basically the motivation type thing, you take a look at inspiration. What are you inspired to do? Because people hold inspiration long term, and they don't hold motivation long. That's what the evidence shows. So you are inspired to become. You are motivated to do. Well, is becoming longer, more out there, more forward thinking? Yes. To do is temporary, and we usually try and get everything that we're motivated around done instantaneously.
Are there things people can do to design their life in such a way so that they're not relying just on motivation, which, to your point, is temporary? It comes in waves, and there are days you just don't want to do anything, and then there are days you're like, I'm going to take on the world.
Yep.
That's not consistent. That's not repeatable. That's not something that you can live your life doing. What's the solution?
One of the key solutions that we start going back to repeatedly is evaluation. And behaviors. Do you have a routine of getting up in the morning where you get up regardless. Like for me, I've gone through a number of medical challenges recently. I had cancer, and now I've had both hips replaced due to the radiation and whatnot that was there. So, I mean, those are challenges. There's a lot of excuses that I could apply to myself to not get out of bed. It's hard, it's painful, it's challenging.
So the solution, I mean, a lot of people I talk to are either in corporate or they're entrepreneurs. And when I look at some of the work I do, which is taking corporate professionals and helping them become entrepreneurs, the biggest challenge they have is what you just spoke about, which is they don't have the routine in place to get up and get working or doing a number of activities that they have to do on a day-to-day basis to keep going. How does someone who's been in corporate their entire life build that structure or that routine so that they get the motivation now to go kickstart their life and their day every single day?
There's a number of patterns that tend to work. One is getting up and exercising. Another pattern that I've seen that people adopt is getting up and self-educating, like reading or doing something like that, because some of these people will probably crave information, and that'll be a big, big need for there. Taking that time for an hour a day or 30 minutes a day to be able to do that is great. Other people take 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes to just calm themselves, and they just meditate for that length of time and sort of get charged up, ready for the day. And all of these things are away from, well, reading may be work-related, but it's filling your mind with stuff that's absolutely necessary and needed. And that gives people the thinking time of figuring out, well, there are possibilities. And when you're thinking about possibilities, you're thinking about leveraging yourself, and you're forward facing and moving towards your future. The entrepreneurs that stay stuck go back and compare themselves with where they are now to where they were in the past. And their past is usually those moments that were their best moments. And when they're comparing themselves to that, they go, my life sucks, and they've got to struggle with all of those, what I refer to again, it's called the why hole. And people get sucked into that why hole. It's horrible. And I go, okay, so you can live there, or you can start doing the things of figuring out, what might I need to do differently now? And what routine might I find and employ? I've mentioned 3 different models. There's an endless variety of routines that you can get into. But doing that, making those routines work, is essential in part of being who you are. The one thing that billionaires do every day to grow, this one thing is so simple. And that one thing is a morning routine that gives them a way to start their day reliably. Do they stick to it 100% of the time? No. But the point is that they get back to it as quickly as they can when they can't use their routine.
So if people watching only stop doing one mental habit today because it's destroying their results or their life, what would it be?
Most people stop doing this one thing. Stop treating every thought you have as though it's a fact. When you stop doing that and you add curiosity, life transforms.
I love that. And that transformation has to be intentional. How do we go in about plugging into our minds? Because our minds are on autopilot. Our brains are on autopilot. How do we interject and put in the right formulas or the structure or the rewiring to do what we need to do without having someone else come in and do it for us?
Everybody's mind is on our autopilot, as I said, at the top. That's our type behaviors. It's just response. All of our behaviors will rely on those response behaviors. However, that's how come I created mind models, so that you can override your autopilot and go, hey, I can take over this bus, this ship, this plane. I can drive it. I can fly it to where I want to go at the speed of thought, my thought. That's what mind models do. And one of the most powerful ones that I keep getting people back to, especially the one thought that entrepreneurs need to be, is curious, functionally curious. And especially when they start staying stuck, like getting stuck and they're in their spot, if they don't ask themselves questions, if they're telling themselves about how everything that they're about to do is so impossible, or somebody else has done it, or I don't know how to do this, well, they're not asking from a state of curiosity. And yes, somebody else might have done it, but have they done it the way you can figure it out? Can you add that twist, that little bit, that shift that makes you have your special sauce? McDonald's wasn't built, by inventing a brand new thing called a hamburger. They didn't invent something brand new. They invented a process to make it fast. That's all. What's your twist? What are you going to do?
That sounds like a lot for someone to take on. How much time and effort does it really take to really get out of that stuck state to the curiosity state to taking action state?
When I've worked with a lot of the clients that are up and coming, they're doing fairly mid-sized 6 figures and 7 figures. This is an issue because they keep on looking at it in large chunks. And the larger the millionaires and billionaires that I've worked with, they seem to be able to laser focus down into the next step, the next thing. And what is that one step that I need to do that will sort of unlock, the dam, which will cause the money to flow, which will make everything happen? What's that one thing to be able to do it? Now, it takes time and going through thinking. And when you've acquired enough knowledge in your business and you can look at it and say, well, I know all of these pieces. What's that thing that's missing? When you start looking for missing pieces, you start leveraging yourself and going, okay, let's do that. And right now, frankly, we are in the best moment that the world has ever had, because we have all these AIs, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, you name it, and just building things out. I mean, I have Replit, where I'm not a coder, but I built a website, actually an app, to be able to launch a project that I have to move people from chaos to calm. And that whole thing is enabling people to transform. Again, it's one thing at a time. And the mind model of being curious and then questioning and having effective questions to ask that are focused on evaluation instead of judgment is absolutely huge.
With all the people you work with, all the people you talk to, you have this innate ability to recognize patterns. And out of these patterns, there's a lot of insights and information you can get. You can profile individuals. What's one strange pattern in people's language that instantly tells you they're about to sabotage themselves?
Well, this strange 3-word pattern is in somebody's language, and it tells me instantly that they're about to sabotage themselves. There's a couple 3-word patterns. I don't know is one of the biggest 3-word patterns that people say that sabotage themselves, especially when they do not have innate curiosity to problem solve. When you say, I don't know, and you sort of throw up your hands, you've just stopped yourself. Instead, if you stop that language pattern, that one major language pattern, and flipped it into, I don't know that yet, all of a sudden, adding yet means you have a possibility of learning. You are now curious. You have a place to go and focus on to get resourceful.
I love that. This is exactly what we do in our household with my kids. We focus on growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And one of those things is adding the word yet to the end of anything you don't know.
The critical thing is to follow up the yet with the mind models Well, being actually curious, which curiosity I teach as a mind model. Acceptance I teach as a mind model. And then questioning, being able to engage about asking yourself, is that effective or is it ineffective? When you go to adding additional mind models to yet, you supercharge the yet with possibilities and learning. And that's what we need in life today, because staying where we are, we're going to be left behind in a hurry. Life is just rushing by.
Absolutely. And I love, your comparison of effective versus ineffective. And you gave me an example when we were talking last week. Can you share an example with our audience where we look at something and says, I don't like this, or this thing absolutely sucks because it can't do, X, versus changing that mindset and that framing to be more towards effective and ineffective, because not everything's going to fit the same cause. Essentially, there's going to be different use cases and purposes.
There's almost an infinite number of use cases, but mind models are flexible and adaptable. And so one of the key things is that we have to look at how we are presenting ourselves. If we are going with a judgment and an I can't mentality, then you're judging yourself as you can't. And therefore, you can't. You could say, I can. Well, yes, that's partially true. And a lot of mindset says, well, just go, I can do it. I can do it. Well, okay, maybe, sort of. And I'm hesitant, because do you actually have the behaviors so that you can do it? Or are you saying, I can learn how to do that? That implies that ability to acquire the information to be able to do it, not I can.
As you were saying that, I think that the first visual that comes to my mind is, well, you're in Edmonton, I'm in Toronto. When we have, minus 25 degrees Celsius, can you ride a bike outside? You can, technically, but is it effective? Or is it ineffective, right? I love that comparison now, because you can now clearly see it. So it's not a matter of I can or I can't anymore. It's really, is it effective or not?
But how do you transform yourself effectively? Because you can't say I can do anything. We can't do anything. We can do anything that we have the knowledge to be able to do, but we can acquire that knowledge. And all I'm trying to do is move this anything so that we don't overwhelm ourselves. And when we overwhelm ourselves, we go into judgment 9 times out of 10. But if we break it down into what is the next effective step that I might do, or what might I do that's completely different than where I was planning on going, like eating soup with a fork? Well, maybe not. But what might I do completely differently? Well, it may not be the best manners, but I could just drink it from the bowl. Like, that's something that's highly effective. It works. What else might I do? Pour it into a cup and drink it from a cup. Really good idea. It's about creativity and being able to be curious to find different models to approach it with without judging yourself. It's about testing. One of my coaches that I trained, her favorite line is, what begins with a T and ends with a T? Test. And everything in our life, it's always a test. And that keeps herself present, facing forward. These are things that we have to be able to do. But if we look at what we can't do, where are we facing? We're looking at what we can't do in our past and weren't able to do and didn't test, because now we accept we can't do it. So being present, facing forward, and testing life, man, you get into the habit of doing that. Well, that's literally what my guys I started, he was doing like 400,000, taking home 40. Well, actually in this first year, that 400,000 turned into 2 million. And 17 years later, that same company is doing over 100 million a year. So, I mean, And I didn't teach them about accounting. I taught them about how to think, how to evaluate, how to test, how to read, how to challenge how he thought. And he's one of two people, by the way, in his other company in the first year, which was a real estate investment arm, place where he took the money from going from 400,000 to 2 million. Well, he was able to take that excess cash and throw that into real estate and turn that into 2 million. Then from there, he was able to keep going. And now he's got 2 years ago, when I spoke to him previously about this project, it was worth $500 million. And now I just talked to him a couple of weeks ago. It's worth 600 million. Well on the way to becoming a billionaire.
Wow. Yeah, and that's exciting. I mean, there's a few things I want to plug into. People are told to follow their passion. Is that the right advice, given what you know and the people you've worked with?
Don't blindly follow your passion. Do this instead. If you do it from a feeling-driven point without figuring out the behaviors, you've got something in there that says, this is my passion. If you can work out what is the driver for that emotion, in other words, what are the things that you're seeing in your head that you like or appreciate, test out if those things are externally verifiable. Then when they're externally verifiable, make sure that it's not your opinion, that you can get valuation that is external. External validation, all of these things are so critical. You have to find evidence for these things. I know it's not popular. I know this isn't a big thing. Like, trust your feelings. Like, they'll guide you. Well, sort of, they will. But you know what? The old thing, build it and they will come. That's bullshit. Like, frankly, it just does not work, because you have to be able to identify the needs of others for people to be drawn to what it is. Some people will get lucky and they will find that, but well over 90%, like 98%, won't be lucky. 2% will. But do you want to be in the 2%? Yeah. Well, that's pure luck. I'd rather be, in an area where, like, I've tested the mind models, they work 80% of the time the first time you use them. And I'd rather get those percentages on my side, and I'd rather use things, evaluate, test, and feel great about the movement that I'm going forward with, because I'm adding value, I'm enjoying what I'm doing, and I'm getting a real world result that is got externally validation. Then I can tweak that external result, go back and work a new behavior to get it working more effectively for next time. Who doesn't want that?
Blair, you've spent years mapping how people think. What's one discovery from your research that completely changed how you see human behavior?
After thousands of hours of mapping how people think, one pattern kept showing up in everyone who is stuck. That pattern is, they would somehow magically blend the why question concept and ask why question, I don't know why, will stop you and hold you stuck. It's so predictable.
How do you rewire that?
For my advanced people, I teach them what I call question concepts. And that gives them every utterance out of your mouth, my mouth, anybody's mouth is always filtered through a who, what, where, when, why, or how. Those are the names of the question concepts, not the question concepts themselves. They are basically 4 columns of information that actually all columns are the same, but every question concept is a unique version of that information pattern. When you see that information pattern and you see how people who are in their why will stay stuck, and that if they use a functional what question or a how question or a combination of what and how, they get out of it predictably. But they need to not use it in a disguised fashion. That's how come I go spend time teaching my higher level executives this skill. And this one skill transforms their lives.
And this is something common you see in everyone, almost.
My research shows that this one thing, question concepts, every thought, every utterance filters through that process. You want to get a fair advantage to be able to listen as somebody's talking. You get to listen to how they're thinking in real time. That's a huge advantage.
I love where this is going, and I'm actually going to challenge my listeners based on this as well. I bet most people watching this can't go 24 hours without revealing their own glitches. What specific challenge would you give them to see how their own minds really work and how they're wired?
If you just try this for just 24 hours, you'll be shocked at how many glitches in your thinking you'll catch. And this one thing is come up with your effective things that you've done and write down 3 of them. Actually, I'd extend that challenge from 24 hours to 5 days or 7 days. Write down 3 things that you've done effectively every day for 7 days. And I bet you dimes to dollars, your view of yourself will change because you had to stop the judgment and only write down 3 things that you did that were effective. If you take it seriously, if you look at how effective you actually are, you can build on those positives. And most people don't build on their positives. They beat the crap out of themselves. And they look at their negatives and think that they have to improve them. It's shown over and over again in psychological testing and studies that working on your positives, working on your effective behaviors, and growing your behaviors that are already effective, getting them to become more effective is the most valuable thing you can do. You know, multi-millionaires and billionaires, one of the things that they always do is they throw out the things that don't work incredibly fast, and they build on the things that do work. They identify exactly what worked, and then they tweak it. How can I get this better and better and better? And that gets them to billions, at least millions.
It doesn't take much from that perspective, does it?
It's surprisingly simple once you start habituating this and turn this into a pattern. I've got one of my guys there that would write down, these 3 things every night before he went to sleep because he was lacking self-confidence. Well, one of that whole problem was based on the fact that he only looked at what he screwed up during the day and said, I got to improve that tomorrow. Well, what are you doing? You're always working on your weaknesses, and all you have at the end of the day is a whole bunch of really strong weaknesses. Does that make sense to you? Doesn't to me. So one of the things that I get them to do, well, him in particular, and he was saying, Blair, I love that exercise. I'm going to expand it a little bit. I'm going to write down those 3 things that I want to point out to myself that I did that's strong. Can I find some of those things that I want to change that aren't working for me? And I said, well, you can go into another exercise that I have. It's called the 3-2-1. And the 3-2-1 is simply this: 3 things that work, 2 things that don't work, and one thing that you're going to change tomorrow, so that you've already figured out before you go to sleep that one thing that you're going to work on the next day. And that started him figuring out where to put his energy, because he was restricted to one thing. And that means, what's that best thing that he can improve on, shift, change, or get out of his way? And my gosh, in a year, different man.
If every person watching adopted just one daily question to start rewiring their brain, what would that question be, and why that one?
If you only ask yourself one question for the rest of your life, let it be this, because it quietly rewires everything else. And that one question is, am I being curious and bold enough today? And when you've got that curiosity and you're being bold, my gosh, all the rest of the mind models start falling into place. Like, is this effective or ineffective? You know, the 3 E's. And you know what? I'll give your listeners a free gift here of the 3 E's that also has a mini masterclass attached to it. So a video and a little booklet called the Mind Model Method. And you can apply that. Now, this is only 3 of the mind models, and there's over 100 of them. And these things can come out and apply them in your life. And just people with these 2 things, this one question, am I being curious and bold enough today? That's huge. Pair that with the 3's. That can take you a long way. When you start leveraging that more effectively with mind models, because now you have models to go, oh, might I try this mind model in this situation? So instead of doing, just, okay, first of all, thinking positive wasn't doing it, but working on strengths does. Similar, but extremely different results. So you're not thinking positively, you're thinking effectively, because you're figuring out what is that effective thing that you're doing on an identifiable, repeatable, and most importantly, duplicatable basis. See, when you can do this stuff and you've got it so that it is identifiable, repeatable, and duplicatable, you've got a mind model method that now you can leverage, and you can start applying this to complex problems and ask yourself, what is the most effective thing I can do next? And when you apply that to next, what is that one thing that you can test? Now, do I know what that one thing is? No. Well, then what if I came up with 3 things, plan A, plan B, plan C, and I tested plan A and saw what worked. I test plan B, see what works. Do plan C and see what works. But do I need to do it right through to the end? No, I need to figure out what is the one that is optimal to start now. Because really simply, if you then figure out that one thing to work on, then you focus on doing that one thing first. And when you focus on doing that one thing first, that's great. Then you can go to plan B. But when you do that one thing and you get to money, let's say it's 3 units of time to get plan A done, and 3 units for plan B and 3 units for plan C, just for easy math. But if you're working on plan A, then plan B, then plan C, and then you have to get 3 units of energy of work to get it profitable, you'll be far further ahead. In fact, if you do plan A, plan B, plan C, plan A, plan B, plan C, plan A, plan B, plan C, at that point, you've got all 3 of them making money, but you've only made 3 units of money. But if you have plan A and you work through plan A to get it working and making money, and then you do plan B, well, now at the end of plan A, you've got 1 unit of money, and then at plan B, you start that and you do that. Well, you've got 1 unit of money from plan, second unit of money from plan A. So you've got 2 units of money from plan A and 1 of plan B. And when you do plan C, now you've got 3 units of money from plan C and 2 units of money from plan B and 1 unit of money from plan C. You've got 6 units of money. Or the other one, you have 3 units of money.
And a lot of wasted time.
Absolutely. Well, you got all 3 working.
Yeah.
But did you work the most
Effectively? Yeah.
And that's where that question, is this the most effective way to do it? And just give yourself 5, 10, 15 minutes to think about it, not to just react and go, oh, I'll just do them all. I'll just spread my time and I'll just dedicate all of that. Doesn't work well that way. Do one, do the next, do the next. Works extremely well that way.
We'll put the links in the description so you can get a hold of the 3 E's and the video and the booklet. Blair, thank you very much for that. Blair, this has been phenomenal. Like, my mind's blown with everything you kind of share. It's time for us to shift gears now, and we're going to go into what I call the rapid fire segment. I'm going to ask you quick questions, and you respond with a one-word answer that describes whatever that moment or that response is. So the first one, usually easy: tea or coffee?
Latte.
Okay, that's another one. There you go. One word to describe your current mindset.
Well, 2 words exactly, but functionally effective.
Love it. Love it. Introvert or extrovert?
Introvert.
Risk taker or planner?
Risk taker.
Biggest glitch in people today in one word. Biggest glitch in people today.
Habitually stuck.
And my last question: if animals could talk, outside of any pets you might have, which one would you want to have a conversation with?
A wolf.
Oh, fascinating. Why a wolf?
A wolf because of its pack mentality and how it organizes the pack. The leader of the pack is rarely at the front of the pack, the dominant. He brings up the rear 90% of the time. That's important to make sure that he can see all aspects of his his pack, and see how everybody is protected. The way that wolves take care of the distrust in their group, they protect their elders. They protect the young. They make sure that the pack is taken care of. That's the conversation that I'd love to see, how those wolves are with that, how a, dominant wolf will be. It's the care.
I love that. I had no idea this is how wolves operated to that extent. This is incredible. And it says a lot about their leadership. Because in our society, we need leaders to be at the very top, right? Versus them saying, no, I don't need to be at the top. And I saw this at one point. There was a organization, I don't remember where I saw it now, but it was the organizational pyramid. We had the leader at the top, and and then the mid-level, and then the employees, and then someone flipped it and said, no, we need to be at the bottom. It's the employees, it's the people that we have to care about. And it stuck with me for the longest time. I don't remember where I saw it now, but it stuck with me. And when you kind of share that story about the wolves, that's what it took me back to. But Blair, for our guests, for our listeners, how do they find you? Where do you live online? Where is that? What's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
The simplest and easiest is just to go to blairdunkley.com. And please, I offer there a free meeting with me. If you're interested, I do. If you're on LinkedIn, you can find me on LinkedIn, and all you do is ask for a free profiling session if you want to be profiled, or jump online with me if you'd like to follow up with anything that is there. I do counseling, I do coaching, I do a lot of executive coaching, and done that for 25 plus years. So if you're interested in transforming yourself or your business, please talk to me.
Blair, thank you very much again for sharing your valuable insights and your experiences with us today. I mean, this has been transformative for myself, and I'm sure for our listeners as well.
I want to thank you so much, TJ, for having me on your show. I mean, I hope your listeners got the value from this. Your transformative comments, your guests that you're bringing on, it's such an enlightening opportunity for people to make and get a difference. So please, if you have a chance and you're listening to this, give him a 5-star review, please. It does so much for the algorithm. It transforms his opportunity to get more information out, great information, to people like you.
It's been a true pleasure. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to Tea Talks for more conversations with the leaders who are shaping our world. Until next time, keep on inspiring.